Yes, students. So we'll start with the next element called internal control assessment and evaluation. Okay. Yes. Before we proceed, we will have one recap of what we have learned yesterday. So we started with the we started with the internal controls. When we talk about the internal controls, we understood what is the nature of the internal control, what is the scope of the internal control, what is the objective of the internal control. These are very basic things. And then you understood what is the limitations. Yeah, anything we need to understand the limitation also. Okay. The second thing is we have to understand the structure. So when we talk about a structure, it's a component. So we have got a traditional structure, we have got a modern structure. Traditional structure has got two elements called accounting controls, admin controls. Okay, so then I don't want to go into it. Modern element today, what we have got across the world is called a COSO framework. Now, what is this COSO framework? What it is? Anything I told you, first thing you need to understand what exactly it is. COSO framework is like I can compare it to India's. It is a language which people understand. Now, how you would have established internal control, what factors you consider, what you didn't consider. See, in the traditional approach, it's very difficult. It becomes too much judgment. It is too much subjective. And on top of it, there is the complexity also, because your organization, your operations, these are all complex. But now, after 1992, they bought one document and a systematic way to implement the internal controls, and auditors understand it, management understand it, internal auditors understand it, investors understand it. Today, it is called the ERM, Enterprise Risk Management Integrated Framework. Same 5 components only, but they are made it integrated. Okay, they are trying to connect it with the business strategies. So previously, it was not connected to the business strategy, and today they are aligned with the business strategy. They mean your organization should have the internal controls in line with the strategies what you have. So what all that framework, what it says, there should be 5 components. Now all these traditional things will get distributed here. One is your control environment. When we talk about a control environment has got 7 subcomponents. That means the very first thing is the ethical values. You need to communicate and integrity. That's why, students, you start with the defining vision, mission. That means you should understand this organization strategic. They have implemented, and this is how you start implementing. Then you will have participation by TCWG. What do you mean by that? They separate themselves from the management. See, the more and more you get involved in the execution, you will not be able to, your vision is blurred because you are too much narrow. You don't get that overview. Why? Because you are involved in the work. Imagine, students, you hand over the work to someone and you sit at afar. You can clearly see and observe what is happening in the organization. That's why what the TCWG should be doing, they should separate themselves from the management and they should participate in the management. They separate means don't just hand over, just get that seat of a leader. Okay, this is what this says. Then when you are planning to delegate to the competent people, define one attitude for them, have an organization structure, give the delegation of authority and responsibility, have good HR policies to hire competent people, do the promotion, performance evaluations, etc. Then we have got the risk assessment process. It has got 4 components: identifying the risk, likelihood, impact, actions. Then we have got control activities, the reviews, okay, segregation of duties, management reviews. Okay, so those are the components what we have got. Then we have got the information and the communication system. That means how do you set up the information system, like what type of hardware, software you will have, people. Okay, those are all the components: hardware, software, people, process, data. And how do you communicate to the internal, how do you communicate to the external, how do you get the input from the third party. And last thing, you have got the monitoring. Okay, that monitoring can be a continuous monitoring or it can be a periodic monitoring. So like this, we discussed about the components of the internal control. Then we spoke about the review. And today we will, okay, review means what you do, you test the design, implementation and its effectiveness. But at the review stage, you are going to do only this and you get a feel of this. Please understand, because review is only an observation. Okay, it's more like talking. It's like a overall, we say a review. It's not a detailed study. That's why at a review, no, you just go into design and implementation and just get a feel. Okay, is this controls are operating effectively? Because if you feel answer is yes, then you have to make a detailed study of the internal controls. If at this point of time only if it fails, then we need not study this. Please understand. At the review time only, if you get a feeling that this organization's controls are not good, then there is no, it doesn't make any sense to assess and evaluate the internal control. That's why one very important question comes now. That's why, students, how do you do the review? You see your activities, you make inquiries, you check some documents, trace few transactions, do preliminary evaluation. Followed, no? The review is a very small set of activity. And later we are going to learn that review will give what type of assurance to you? Review will give limited assurance. I can call it as the revision lectures. Review. Now, what type of assurance revision lectures will give you? If you watch revision lectures and go to you don't prepare anything, just watch the revision lectures and go. So it will give you only limited assurance. Regular lectures are more like audit. It gives you high level of reasonable assurance, but not absolute assurance. So, when we want to do the audit or when you are doing test of controls, if you want to address the audit risk, then you cannot go with the limited assurance about the internal controls. You need to get a high level of reasonable assurance. That's why review is only a preliminary evaluation. Okay, now you get into the detailed evaluation. Now you are stepped into SA 330 because you have decided to test the controls and rely on them. Okay, I hope it's fine. So, review is only the overall overview. Evaluation is a more detailed one. So, where you become very serious, you start gathering the evidence, you see how they are operating, you identify the risk, you document it, you have got a basis for why you are trusting the internal controls. So the quality and effectiveness depends upon the tone at the top. All these things we will move on. Following are the key components to assess and evaluate the control environment. So if you are talking about the evaluation of the control environment, see some picture they have given here. See, vision. Everything starts with the vision. Based on the vision, you develop the policies and procedure that you communicate to the employees. Then you assess the risk and you monitor it. Then again you divide the vision. Okay, some picture they are given from somewhere. Leave it. Now, what are the key components to assess and evaluate? See, this is the key word. Components to assess and evaluate the internal control. This is the keyword for you. One, see, they have given standard and under that they have given the sub items, but I will treat it as all single points. First thing is standard operating procedures. That means every organization must have defined the processes, the role, controls, who should be doing, what they should be doing. So this is what you need to evaluate first. Controls are likely to be clearly understood and consistently applied even during the employee turnover, because people may change tomorrow, but your SOP will remain the same. What you are supposed to do, which authority level should be supposed to do, or which role is supposed to do. That's why, students, here when you learn the standard operating procedure, you understand how an organization will be defined. Like who should clean the vessel. Like in your organization, you have got a standard operating procedure that maid should clean the vessel. So tomorrow maid may change, but the role is not going to change. And when they are supposed to clean, okay, what should be their protocols? So those are all the things defined in the standard operating procedures. Second, you need to evaluate the enterprise risk management. Organization which has got a robust process to identify, mitigate the risk, will assist in early identification. So you have to go through that. Then segregation of, I can also compare something like this. Standard operating procedure is more like control environment. Like you define your thoughts and you communicate those thoughts. Risk management means more like identification. Okay, see this is your standard operating procedure. Based on your vision, you define your standard operating procedure. You communicate it. After this, you will try to do the risk management. Then you segregate the job responsibility. I can compare it more like control activities. Like if it is the critical job, you see that one person is not going to do that. Okay, so it can be done from the risk point of view. It can be done from the efficiency point of view. Like buyer should not be involved in the receiving. Bank reconciliation is prepared by the one who did not make the payment entry. Then job rotation, you involve in the significant areas, again control activity. And the delegation of financial powers, and okay, again job rotation, same buyer for a long period of time. Buyer, he mean to say purchase department, commercial department. That means a person from the commercial department should not be made to talk to one vendor for a long period of time, because they develop one comfort zone. They will have a familiarity threats in the organization. So these are all the things you need to evaluate. Delegation of the financial power. This is also, I can say, more like a control activity. And you need to see information technology based controls. Okay, have you implemented ERP system? Okay, example, at the stage of customer invoicing, application of correct rates in the interest or credit control can all be exercised through IT system. You will see today. Today you go to a big bazaar, you just scan, you got the output, you got the price. You see, who is controlling that? An ERP system is controlling it. So do you have such systems in the organization? Okay, this is what you need to evaluate. Okay, so the keyword in the examination is key components to assess and evaluate. Assess means measure, and evaluate the control environment. Okay, so now comes the important part. How do you evaluate the internal control? So evaluation means you need to get input. You need to get some sort of input. Then you need to have a process, and you need to have a documentation. Okay, so primarily we can say there are three types of evaluation techniques. Okay, so there are three types of evaluation technique. I can say that they are questionnaire, checklist, and your flowcharts. Okay, now let me talk only about the questionnaire. One by one we will talk about the three things, because this is going to consume the majority portion of your contents now. Now, what happens in the questionnaire? In the questionnaire, you start with one list of questions. Okay, what is the speciality about it? Because question is always asking why, what, when, how. Okay, so you end up with this type of question. But the beauty of that question is you design the questions in such a way, okay, you don't expect them to answer in a descriptive way. Instead, you may want them to answer either in a yes or no. That's how you design the question. Followed, no? Like what I'm going to say, like for example, I can design one questionnaire for you. I can ask one question. Question number 1. Do you read, say, 10 hours per day? Okay, so see, how many hours you read in a day? It becomes a very subjective question. Instead, I will ask one question: do you read 10 hours per day? Because my expectation, my standard is, say, for example, 10 hours. So you don't have any other choice either to say yes or no. You said yes. Okay, I will ask second question. When you read, is your attention on the books? Now you say yes. Then do you write along with reading or only reading? Yes. Now, based on the number of yes or number of no, I may assign some points to it. Yes means 1 point, no means 0 points. At the end, I can measure. That's why they said assessment and evaluation of internal controls. Assessment means measurement of the strength. Okay, Confucius or somebody told, whatever you could measure on the earth, please measure. Whatever you could not measure, try to measure. Beautiful. Because only when we measure, no, we get that understanding. Okay, what is happening? Otherwise, it goes with the gut feeling. But imagine if we are able to measure something like this. If I am going to give some points, yes, I can understand things better now. I can make a comparison. I can see what is the strength involved, which is simply better than, okay, are you preparing? Are you reading? You see, no, very nice. Nice way you can understand. Like, have you written the test? Yes or no? Okay, have you written the MCQ test? You see, I just ask certain set of questions which always ends with the yes or no question. And based on this, I will figure out total how much points you have secured. And I will compare these points with my expectation, how much you should have secured. From there, now I will make the sense of risk now. That means, is that controls are effectively implemented, not implemented? Like if every answer goes with no, 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 okay, you will have some set of scores there, which is below my expectation. You see, something very subjective, have we converted into objective by putting one questionnaire? You understood how this operates? Okay, let us see that. What is the technique of a questionnaire? Because of the widespread experience of the auditors, processes about the business operations, general knowledge, appropriate control, etc., they can develop their own standardized internal control questionnaires. Okay, so we can have general our own. Now, what is a questionnaire? Questionnaire is a set of questions. It's a set of questions, just like I give you an example. About each functional area, I can go dig more deeper into it. And it has got a purpose of evaluation. Evaluation means you get a certain data, you process that data and try to measure and get a feel or an idea about it. And what you are trying to see, the effectiveness of the control. See, in the evaluation, our focus is on effective. We are not talking about the design and the implementation. Please understand, friends. I told you there are three elements called the design plus implementation plus operating effectiveness. At the review stage, we focus on these two elements and try to get a feel of this. Only, okay, should I trust or not? Because evaluation takes a lot of effort. That's why they say that if something is not well designed, testing operating effectiveness makes no sense at all. Now, what you do, you are trying to do evaluations. Evaluation includes your measurements. That's why you can alternately use the alternative words. You try to get some information, you try to measure that, you try to analyze it. So what you are trying to do, try to effectiveness of the control. That means, is it operating throughout the year? And is there any weakness? I hope it's clear, students. Please mark this. You have to study this. So it consists of several separate sections devoted to each area, like trade payable, trade receivable. So I can develop so many questions. Okay, I'm also planning because when I read this, so many ideas strike to my mind. Let's see. I'll also develop some sort of questions. Questionnaires are intended to, who should fill it now? Should I fill or you fill? It should be filled by the company's executives because it is about you, about your organization, about your processes. But please understand, there are some practical difficulties. It may take pretty long time to be filled because already you have to prepare so many things, so many data you need to input. On top of it, I will also come and sit on your head and say, please fill this questionnaire. So now, that's why, what is the practice right now? How it is operating? Because what happens now, you always send one questionnaire. You are not filling only. You are keeping it pending. I am following always. Please give, please give. We are not giving. What's the best practice? So, do the accepted practices. We will have one meeting. Imagine, students, if I would have sent you a questionnaire and you are not filling that one. What's the best thing? One-to-one, we will have one Google Meet. Okay? I will hold the questionnaire. I will ask you straightforward. And executives concerned get the answer filled then and there itself. So this is how practically it works today. Yeah, because sending some data, sending some questionnaire to executives is a waste of time. And you mark it in the email high important, urgent and all, and urgent has become normal today. Everything is urgent only. So this is how they do. And how you frame. So I frame the questionnaire in such a way, there is no detailed answer. Please understand, we dispense the detailed answer. Often, one general question is broken into sub questions, ending with yes, no, or not applicable. As I told you, no answer should devote the weakness. So I wish all the answers should have been yes, 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 yes. So all receipts are promptly recorded in the bank daily. Are you depositing everything in the bank? If answer is yes, yes, it's good internal control. You're not depositing every day in the bank. It's bad internal control. So are you revising it every day, whatever classes are done? Are you doing homework on everyday basis? Answer is yes, yes, good control. No, it is not good control. Now, question may be framed when S answer would indicate a question can also be framed. There is no, that's why I told no. It's not a hard and fast rule. First only we discussed. It can change depending upon the circumstance. However, it should be borne in mind the scheme of question should be consistent, logical, corroborative. That means one where it's yes, one no, no. You always try to create one consistency there. Yes. Now, in the use of standardized internal control questionnaire, you make certain basic assumptions of good internal control. Okay, please mark it important. They can ask you. Okay, first of all, you should be knowing what is internal, what is questionnaire. Second, how it is practically being done. What are the assumptions you make about the elements of control before you draft questionnaire. Now, you see that certain procedures in general are essential for reliable internal control. See, that means certain procedures has to be done, like daily depositing of the cash into the bank, daily balancing of the cash book. Okay. So when I am giving issue questionnaire, say for example, I can expect that daily you sit and prepare. You don't sit and prepare occasionally. This is like a very basic assumption I'll have. That's why I don't ask such questions. Are you preparing daily? Like you may not ask such questions. You may start with certain assumptions. Organizations are such that they permit extensive division of duties. Person who is having accounting doesn't have a custodial function. No single person is given to complete a task. Evidence to identify the person who has done the work, like accountability, performed by each one is expected to come under the review, that is maker and checker, and there is a proper documentation. If you see this, what is this assumptions of elements of good control? The same thing, internal check. You can write about the internal check there. There should be rotation. You add your own point. There should be rotation of the staff. Sensitive area assets should be different. Segregation of duty should happen with the execution and your custody. Accounting and recording document should be there. If you see, student, you don't need to remember this. Whatever internal check related points are there, no, the good conditions or expectations of good internal check, same thing you can write. But in the context of internal control question. So a question naturally arises, do you need to issue questionnaire every year? Yes, for the first year it is necessary, but subsequent year, instead of issuing that entire questionnaire again, you may ask wherever there are changes and you can just make the changes. And if there are changes, you please take a note. A good practice is to issue the questionnaire irrespective of the change for every third year, because always we discussed that every third year you have to do a comprehensive evaluations and comprehensive review, because generally we assume that every third year controls are going to change, but in upcoming days these standards can get amended. It says test every year. The reason is because of the AI. Okay, there is a lot of changes are happening in the market, so a lot of controls are getting changed, so many changes are happening. So that's why this 3-year benchmark can come down. The rationale of issuing question every 3 years is that even though there are no changes, okay, change lies in altering the client as an unnoticed and unexpected change, because they also may not have observed, like they must have outsourced something, they must have gone for online payments. This will make the clients more control conscious. Okay, that's it. Very simple. So what is that you are going to study? What is the questionnaire? How it will be designed? What is the best practices? Then you or assumptions you will have with related to the questions or internal controls in the organization. Is it done? Yes. So next we will move to the checklist, the second element. So checklist is more like you already have. This is see, questionnaire is to understand the internal controls. Checklist is more for the audit staff. Like for example, when you travel, do you have a checklist? Okay, have I taken the breast, paste? Have I taken the dress? Have I taken this visa, passport? So do you have a checklist with you? You see, the travel agent will give you a checklist so that, okay, you check these things are available with you. How life is simple here. So now you design one checklist related to the internal control evaluation. Okay, coming back to me, I will have one checklist for myself. Okay, have I completed this? Have I given this homework? Have I given this particular thing? Have I asked them to do the MCQ test? So this particular checklist is for me. Now, when I put a tick mark, okay, from my side, I have completed that particular task. Have you verified? Okay, then I can say, have you verified whether they are doing this? Have you, okay, from the audit point of view, have you seen whether the cash has been deposited every day? Have you seen that the bank reconciliation has been done? So understood, no? It's also a series of instructions or a question on the internal control which the auditor must answer. This time it's an auditor's point of view. Previously, an executive should answer. Okay, particular instruction is carried out. We will mark it with yes, no, or not applicable. Same like question. We will put one tick mark. So this will act like a reminder for certain matters to be checked and meant for the auditor's own staff rather than for the employees. Like questions in the checklist may be formed in the following manner. This is an illustrative set of questions. Like, have you checked whether the cashier is not responsible for opening of the incoming mail? Yes, incoming mails means the letters. Okay, like credit notes coming, debit notes coming. Why cashier should have, accountant should have an access? Have you checked he does not authorize any of the ledger? That means what we are trying to figure out here, is there a segregation of duty? He is not having access to the books. You said yes. We got a better feel. Because if you have not filled it, that means you have not verified it. And if you are not verified, you don't know what is happening in the client's location. Have you checked whether the cashier does not authorize any expenditure? Okay, again, segregation of the authorization. This is blank. Now I will go and tell my accountant, go and check. Is he having? See, in this process, we will come to know whether that cashier is having rights to authorize also. We say yes, we have checked it. That means if you have checked, if it has been very bad observation, that means there is no segregation, you would have come and reported me. You would have documented it. Does he sign the check? Have you verified it? Does he take annual leave? Have you verified it? Okay, like this. Does he has got no other funds or investment? Does he hold unnecessary balance in hand? So I hope students you are clear. So this is one of the illustrative checklists which can be created. The basic distinction between internal control questionnaire and a checklist is the internal control questionnaire incorporates large number of detailed questions, but they will have contains questions related to the control objective within area under the review. Now they are usually answered by the executive, but they are answered by the staff. Significance of no in internal control questionnaire indicates the weakness. Okay. Checklist, a specific statement is required whether apparent weakness is there or not. Because see, the moment you tick no, who the executive, that means there is a weakness. But here, have you verified whether so and so? You are leaving blank or you are saying not applicable. See, or have you verified? Okay, I will say yes. Or I'll say no. But do I know exactly what is happening? So it is not apparent. Please understand, students. Whether I will tick this or whether I will tick this, whether you are verified or you are not verified, I will not apparently come to know whether there is a weakness or not when it comes to checklist. It requires, that's what I told you, it requires a separate documentation what you observed when you verified it. But in the control questionnaire, the moment you say no, it's very apparent that there is a weakness. I hope this part is clear. Checklist, a specific statement will be required where apparent weakness may prove to be material in relation to the accounts as a whole. So they can ask you one questions on this also. But if you see in the Q&A, again, same thing has been discussed in the inter also. So that's why they may ask you these questions in the inter. I don't think so they will ask you in the final. Okay. Now let us go to the flow chart, because people say that one picture is better than 1,000 words. Okay. Now what is happening in the flow chart? Now students, we may have to skip some of the contents of this particular thing. Okay, we will see that because they are given so big flow chart for you to understand. Unnecessarily, no, it is going to take out your attention. I will explain in a simple language. What is the flow chart? See, flow means movement, chart, picture. So you are going to represent the processes in the form of a chart, a picture. Okay. What is that you should consider? Primarily, you will have a pictorial representation of the process. You see, student, how it is represented, no? I will take something called procure to process, pay, procure to pay. I'll give a small example to you before I proceed with this. Now, imagine you at home, you eat the food, like your mother must be preparing. Now, who actually prepare? How it is possible that there is a dish on your table? Because having a dish on the table is going to solve your problem of hunger. But is it that mother only contributed? Answer is no. Because if you see this particular dish, mother prepared the food. You washed the vessels. Your brother brought the groceries. Father paid money. If I see this, if one outcome has come on the table, 4 different people contributed to it in an integrated way. So I can call this as like a production department. This is more like a maintenance department. This is more like a logistics department. This is more like a finance department. Now, if you see, if a problem has to be solved, 4 departments worked together. You got this point? Now, you need to have a very basic clarification about what is a function and what is a business process. First of all, what is a business? Let us get that understanding. Business is a set of functions. And what is the central theme of the business? Problem solving. Whose problem? Customer's problem. So customer has got a problem. And what is customer's problem? Expectation minus reality. So he has got certain expectations and he wanted to make it reality. And that is the problem for him. So every problem starts with an expectation of a customer. Customers don't expect. Business has got nothing to do. Now, when a customer develops an expectation and the customer cannot make it as they happen to a reality, like you want a mobile phone. Can you manufacture a mobile phone, whatever you want? No. So who is helping you? Apple is helping you. Samsung is helping you. But how that business is going to do that? Because in a business, it is not one person's work. So production department, planning, maintenance, procurement, HR, all these people have to contribute. Then only you can come out with the FG, finished goods. Similarly, at home, if you are hungry, it is not just one mother is helping you. You, your mother, father, everybody working together to solve that problem. So these are called functions or departments. Are you clear? Each is called a function. That's why internal audit is also a function. But their job is not to solve the customer's problem, but to oversee the internal controls. Are everybody doing their job? So this is called a business function. I hope it's clear. Each are called business functions. Now, what is the business process? Process means something sequence of activity. Now, if you see, students, if the food has to go through, it has crossed 4 departments like production department, maintenance department, logistics department, finance department. Like security is there. Okay, when you come to security, it can cross only through the, say, your production department and your finance department. Maintenance and your logistics may not come into picture. Just to give you an example. So there are certain business processes which will cross through different departments, and primarily we have got 2 business processes which is applicable to everyone in this world, whether it is a tea manufacturing company or a satellite manufacturing company. That is called procure to pay, order to collection, hire to retire. Okay, then we have got record to report. So these are all the standardized processes. Now, procure to pay is procurement. You buy the raw material and all. Order to collection, you get the customer orders. If you talk about Infosys company, for them procure to pay may not be applicable or it is very minor. Order to collection is generally everyone will have, because sales is, everybody will have sales. But if you see, if I have to do that make sales, whether I am going to use a physical substance or I am going to use an intellectual, depending upon that, what is important, which process is important in that organization. Like for example, Infosys, hire to record is very important, retire is very important, because their processes are intellectual products. I hope you are clear about this. Okay. So let us take any one process. It will have a sub process. What is the sub process? Like if I am talking about the procurement, everything starts with the procurement. Then you do the GR, like you go to the hotel, you place an order, you get the material, you eat it, you will get the invoice, and you will make the payment. That's why it's called a P2P. And with this, no, one transaction is complete. Then again you go to the hotel, again this is going to get repeated. Another customer comes, he is also going to repeat. If you see that, this is becoming a very routine. That's why these are all called routine transaction. That is, these internal controls are routine internal controls. So when you are trying to evaluate an internal control, you pick some big high level processes. Okay, how do you prepare a chart now? You look at a chart, how it is prepared. Now I will start. The charts are prepared horizontally. Like I will prepare a flow chart for procurement. So all my procurement related things I will do like this. It will go vertically. And from here, this process will move. After this work is done, it will go to GRN. Then it will go to this invoicing. So in the GRN, there are so many controls that will go vertically. And then payment. Payment will have so many things. Invoice booking will have a three-way match. They will all go vertically, but the process wise it goes horizontally. I hope you are clear, students. Always when you design the flow chart, you design the flow chart horizontally like this, because you have to represent how a process moves. You don't show the processes down step by step. You show it horizontally because it is very easy for someone to do. And inside this major process, how sub processes will go, that you will draft like this. Okay, let me start with the procurement. How to draft one procurement related flow chart? How a procurement will start with? So start, I will write a start. What it is going to start with? It will start with the purchase requisition, because no purchase requisition, there is no action required. So first I will draft like this: received the purchase requisition. Now I will ask one question. Whenever a purchase requisition is received, is this stock available? Like for example, you go and tell your father, get me one biscuit. First, father should think, is biscuit already available? Have you already purchased it? If the answer seems to be yes, then I will tell them that, okay, Baba, I am going to communicate that go to the stores and get it, and I will end the process. Finish. This process ends. That means I don't need to do anything. If already your father has purchased a biscuit, you go and tell, give me one packet of biscuit. Father will take there. It is there in the cupboard, almirah. You go and take it. Finish. Matter is done. But what if you don't have answer turns to be no? That means if the stock is not there, now you have to initiate the process. In initiating the process, first the question you need to ask yourself: have you obtained quote from 3 OEMs, original equipment manufacturers? Because you buying from the middleman, simply you are wasting commission. Okay, I can say ask one more thing instead of this: do you have a contract? Yeah, because every day I find that my daughter is asking one day one biscuit, another day another biscuit, but somewhere she's asking biscuits, eating biscuits every day. Now what makes sense to me? Because I know if I buy something in bits and pieces, now what's going to happen? If I'm going to buy it in the bits and pieces, I'm not going to get the discount. Instead of, imagine if I can estimate my annual consumption and I can have a commitment given to the DMart or somewhere, won't he give me at a higher price now? If answer is yes, then I say place order based on the contract and end the process, done. No, if the answer you don't have a contract, no contract. Now then you ask one question to yourself: do you have approved vendors, OEMs? Do you have approved OEM vendors? Because you need to see now, because there is a requirement. Do you have OEM vendors? Answer is no. Now you may have to try for new vendors or look for vendor development. Answer is yes. Then I will ask one more question to myself. Are you buying it from the 3 OEMs? No. Then are you taken the approval for these purchases? Because this is a deviation now. Answer is yes. Okay, then have you prepared the note for approval and comparison? You see, students, when I look at this process gives me a very clear picture of how this particular chart gives me a very good picture of how process is moving in the organization. Okay, now I want to give you one perspective. Please understand. Before I go back again, I'll give one small example. Please see. Now, this is a place and there are a lot of trees and we can call it as a forest. Okay. Now, we will take one biologist. Okay. After 10th, that person has taken science, PCMB. Then he went to BSc biology or whatever, computer biology. And he is learning more about the species. Now, when I take that biologist to this forest, what is that he will see there? He will start automatically observing species, evolution. This is what they will see. Instead of biologist, if I take an person who is an environmentalist, he is not concerned with the species. He will see environmental deforestation, how many trees have been cut, or what is the global thing and all. Okay, temperature is going to happen. If I take, instead of this person, if I take, for example, builder, he will see he is thinking, okay, what I can construct here in this land. If I take a timber manufacturing company, he will see, oh, you see, very good timbers, huh? We can convert this into timber and I can earn crores. You see, students, 4 different people, same forest, see this in 4 different view or perspectives. You developed this flowchart. Okay, first of all, who should be doing this? The organization should have done. Who in the organization? Somebody who is concerned with the money. Now, you see, if this is prepared, they are not prepared from the money point of view. Like what they want to save. If the stock is already there, why I should block my money again? That's the reason you are asking this question. Is the stock available there? Do you have a contract? Because I want to earn discount. Have you taken it from the OEM? Because I want to get a better price. Have you taken it from 3 OEMs? Because we have got a transparency. You see that entire flowchart, you can look it from the money point of view. But you tell me, are you, when you're gone for as an audit, are you looking the money? No, you are looking into the assertions. What could have gone wrong? Now, you look at this particular thing. I'll just tell you. Is this stock available? Imagine they have not asking this question only. Instead, straight away they ask one question, is contract available? Now, you prepare one more flowchart and suddenly you feel that this question has never been asked in the organization. Okay, that means you understand they should have asked this, but they are not asking this. Or you prepared a flowchart, but you see that this particular this question has never been asked. Straight away they shift to contract. Now, what is that risk you figure out? Okay, you figured out one risk, that this organization might have so much stock which is unused. Like you are buying left and right in Amazon, not even checking whether you already have it or not. Now what happens, friends? You have got so much stuff which is never used. What's going to happen? Tomorrow, its value will fall because it is not used. Now, as an auditor, are you concerned? Yes. How? Because the valuation of the stock is going to get impaired. Now, do they have the good internal control to figure out that? No, because nobody is asking question here. And do you think when you go to the stores, is the stores person concerned that his job is just to maintain it? Who should have asked this question? Do you already have a stock? The purchase department should have asked. If they fail to ask, none of the people in the procure to pay is going to ask this question. So what you may have so many stock available which has been unused. Since the controls are missing here, You cannot do TOC, test of control. This time you have to shift yourself to substantive procedure. So what you should do now, you have to go to the stores department, get the list of all the stock along with the material code. Then this year you see, get the list of purchase orders with the material code. Using VLOOKUP or using AI, you make one comparisons here and see, is there anything you purchased recently or during this year for which the stock is already, and you have an aging of the stock here. You have an aging of the stock. And you see, is there anything you have recently purchased and which was already available in the stock? Okay, so this gives you an intimation that some items might have lost its value. Okay, now you go to the stores and say, okay, you segregate those items and make impairment for this. You see, students, how auditor will look at it? Auditor will not look at it from the cash point of view because we are not there to improve their business. If you are an internal auditor, you would have looked at it from the cash point of view. But if you are an external auditor, you look at it from the assertion point of view. Like, what is my audit risk here? My audit risk is the overvaluation of the inventory. And why this overvaluation is happening? Because somebody in the organization is not asking the right question and they are not ignoring it. That means something is there in the system. They are not aware that that is available and they are not using it. Followed, no? Now, do you have an approved list? Now, you tell me. No. Now, there can be possibilities of the fake vendors. Some fake purchases could be happening. So, auditor will look it from this point of view, like how error and fraud can happen and it can affect my financial statements. I hope it's clear, students. This concept is clear, how the flowchart is prepared. Okay, how people will look at the flowchart. Okay, now let us go back to the study material and understand. What is the flowchart? Flowchart is the graphical presentation. Always start with what? What it is. What do you mean by that? Nature. So, flowchart is a graphical representation of the internal controls, normally drawn up to show the controls in each section and subsection. That means purchase, and in purchase you have got inventory, contracts, sub verification, okay, processing of placing a approval notes, etc. So it will give you concise and a comprehensive way to review the internal control, and it will give you the bird's eye view. Okay, something you can write here. Now, what a properly drawn flowchart can provide? It can provide a neat visual picture of the whole activities. It will show at what point the document is raised. See, we come to know, okay, this is the point where the documentation comes. Here we will do the documentation. Here we will have an approved documentation because we are communicated that go and please use it. So we will have a very clear picture when the document is raised. How many copies are prepared? What all the stages set sequentially through, like from here the document should go where? Distribution of documents to various sections. Who is authorizing and matching? What is the filing of the, where it has been filed? Where is the final disposal? Say, what I can say, you will come to know a clear-cut picture of documentation. Okay, please understand the keyword. I don't know how they are going to ask you in this examination. How the document flow is going to happen, you will come to know through the flow chart. Like how many copies something has been prepared, who is documenting, who is signing, where it is kept, the signed copies will be where, and where it is disposed. So this is what you are going to get. Okay, let us see one test your knowledge question right now. Because if I go back to it, see, review of the questionnaire, internal control, they have not asked any question. And internal control assessment and evaluation, SOP, techniques, nothing, but they will start with the flowchart. Okay, so they are not asked any questions anywhere. Now, explain briefly the flowchart technique for evaluation. So, what is flowchart? Is a graphical representation, bird's eye view. Okay, all those things you are going to write. Write short explanatory notes on the flowchart technique for evaluation. Okay, so this I don't know. It is distinct from narrative form. Narrative form means you write in the form of a story. Everything you write. Notes, no? I can say something like this. You see, students, we are doing mind map. What is this? A flowchart. You see the amount of clarity it brings. Won't it tell you how it will move from one place to another? Will you get this idea if you go through read this? No, this is called a narrative. This is narrative. This is narrative. That means you explain like a narration. Every concept you have explained like a narration. In the mind map, we have explained the same concept through a chart, a visual representation. Like you draw picture, okay, you draw connections, you show it how it moves, and you see, know yourself, how beautiful clarity it brings. Now, so what it will help you, it will give you a picture of what time documents is raised, number of copies, checking points, filling, etc. That's it. See, there's only one question, and in study material they said refer para 6.13. They are not given the solution. That's why I marked it important, because in this particular session, if you see evaluation, there's only one question, but the pages are so many things they have asked. Okay, that's why we will be careful with this particular thing. Okay, from now onwards, we will not focus much. We will quickly go through. I don't want you to study also. See, students. Now, because they have put some pictures, draft, so many things they have given. Now, I will ask you one thing. Okay, we will do one small risk-based study also. What is the probability, whatever content they have given from now onwards, what is the percentage probability they could have asked? Okay, when I ask a probability, it could be either 20% or it could be 80%. There could be two chances. That 20% chances are there, this they can ask, or 80% chances. Okay, next I will ask how much marks they can ask for. Marks is only, say, max to max 5 marks. Will they ask 50 marks based on this particular content? You ask me. Then there is a risk. So, if I had to draft a two-dimensional matrix, this is marks, this is probability of occurrence. See, the mark is very low. So, the chance is 20% or chance is 80%. You need not bother much. Why? Because when you multiply both, when I multiply 80% into, say, 5%, because 5 mark, no? How much it comes to? 4%. Or if I multiply 20% into 5%. No, sorry. 1 minute. 0.8 into 0.05. 0.4%. And if I multiply 20% into 0.5%, it is 0.1%. You see, this is 0.4%, 0.5% is a remote. Followed, no? So that's why we can ignore it. Huh? That's why I'm telling you. Otherwise, no, it looks very high. But I will explain in my own language. Now, a flow chart is normally horizontal one. I already told you. It will go like this horizontally, from section to section, and each sections are vertically drawn below. Procurement is below. First column head is devoted to the section where the transaction originates. Okay, first column is for your procurement. And in that procurement, I will give the starting point to the purchase requisition. It is a symbolic representation. Okay, and each of the main functions are linked to the related functions, like purchase is linked to the trade payable, sales is linked with the trade receivable and collections. Okay, like that. Generally, a questionnaire is also enclosed with it. Okay, how it looks like, I can say something like this. See, this is something called order to collection. I told you, customer, who is the initiator, sales. Then you have got credit control, dispatch, billing, accounts receivable. So the processes flow like this. Okay, did you receive the customer order? Yes. Have you checked the credit limit? Yes. No. Then please check it. Yes. Then again, can we issue the sales order? Yes. Then after this, okay, start picking the material because he's credit worthy customer. Dispatch the goods. Okay, you prepare the delivery note. Okay, see, this is documentation. This is one documentation. Then prepare the invoice. Send the invoice. This is documentation. See, this is the flow happen. And now what I can do, I can attach one questionnaire also. Okay, this questionnaire with the yes and no answer, and I can attach the flowchart number to this, like question number 2. This is the flowchart. This is what set of questions I should be asking there. Now, when you combine a flowchart with the questionnaire, that means the amount of clarity will be very high for you. So you can attach a questionnaire also with the flowchart. And they gave one example of order. So first of all, they gave you some symbols and all. Leave it. Order receiving section can receive the mail, telephone. That means custom order can obtain through mail, telephone, or some company salesman. And they explain like how the order is going to happen, everything, what they are going to test. So we are not going to look into it. And they showed one very complex type of one internal control. They showed how many number of records will be there, which copy will be sent where. I say, students, please ignore it. Please, we'll move on. We'll not spend time here because there are so many other important areas to figure out. Then they showed like how the flow chart will look like. So if you are interested, you watch the, you can say anywhere, give me an O to C flow chart, or you can design it yourself. Okay, but this is a very complex way they have defined. So we will move on. Then billing section, what happens? Okay, then they have given one more chart, and they said where they have picked it. They have picked it from analytical auditing by Skinner and Anderson. Okay, so students who desire to study the subject of preparation of flowchart, they can refer to chapter number 4 of that book. That means these contents they gave you from Skinner and Anderson's book. And you see, student, it is very difficult to grasp what they are trying to tell, and maybe this is no more relevant in today's day. I don't know when that Skinner and Anderson wrote this book. Prepare 4 copies. Like, where are copies today? Where are hard copies? Today everything is digital. So your flowchart should be digital flowchart. Like how the digital organization, you see, 4 copies are prepared, it seems. Which day they are? 4 copies of the invoice. The invoice is completely digital now today. Who is sending you physical copy of the invoice? That's why it is very difficult to understand what they have told, because first of all it is old and it is chapter number 4. Before that 1, 2, 3, 4 we are 1, 2, 3 we didn't study only. That's why I suggest we will skip it. We will move on. Now, what a close look into the flowchart will show? It will show advisors are sent in the salesman and no check at all that the advisors have sent has been received. That means there can be loss of business. That means when you go through flowchart, you understand that there is a loophole. When you get an order, there is nobody to ask. Like for example, when a customer goes and sits on a table, a waiter is supposed to come and ask. Imagine a customer goes and sits on a table and there is no one to go and ask them, because nobody is clear. Organization chart is not there. That supplier 1 should go to table 1 or supplier 2 should go to table 1. After waiting, what this customer will do? He will go back. So this is called a loss of the business. Now you tell me, is auditor concerned with this? He is not concerned. But internal auditor may be concerned. That's why when we evaluate the flow chart, we may have to evaluate from a different perspective, from the cash perspective, from the risk perspective, from the fraud perspective, from the assertion perspective. Now, raising of the sales order by the telephonic orders, it is risky from the business point of view, because tomorrow they may cancel. There is no system of credit sanction, so there can be bad debts. Now, this is a particular thing, auditor may be interested because you have to do a provision for bad debts. There is no check at all for the second copies in the dispatch section. That means you have done the, you have got an order, but dispatch is not being done only. There is no check in respect of pricing. There can be loss of revenue. That means they have eaten something. Okay, but you have priced, they have taken say Coca-Cola, but you have billed for water. These things could have happened. So it is not clear whether the supporting documents are adequate or not. So again, just to tell you, like how to evaluate it, how to read the flowchart. So this is how you can read the flowchart. We will skip it and we will go to the next part called the reporting of clients on the internal control weakness. Okay, so shall we make one chart, friends? Shall we have that mind map? Evaluation of the internal control. Okay, what is that we need to focus here in the evaluation? Yes, so you can write evaluation. I can say something like this. What are key components to assess and evaluate? See, students, they have given something called a control environment. This can create a confusion, because when we talk about the components of internal control, we are talking something about the integrity and communication of value, HR, organization structure, participation by the management. That is also component of a control environment. Followed, no? But here the keyword will be different, and I don't know, maybe in the examination they may change it also, they may give you to same also. That's why this particular thing you please mark it very important. Here the keyword is key component to assess and evaluate. This is the keyword for. From this you should understand. Otherwise, no, in the examination you may get confused. What are the key components to evaluate? You may write about those points. No, maybe that also may get awarded marks. I am not telling that you may not get the marks. Like if you say participation by the TCWG and all, if you talk about the components of internal control. But here they may talk about this, particularly one, SOP, standard operating procedures. This is the key component. ERM, enterprise risk management. SOD, segregation of duty. So if you want, you can write the full form. Standard operating procedures. Anyhow, since the book is available with you, you can always go back and refer. Then job rotation. Delegation of financial powers. IT controls. Okay, so these are all the 6 areas you have to assess and evaluate about the control environment. So next thing is about your techniques. Techniques or methods of evaluation. Techniques or methods of evaluation. Internal control. We have got questionnaire, checklist, flowchart. Okay, when we talk about the questionnaire, one, what it is, what is the questionnaire? We'll write in a very short way. Set of questions on each functional area. Functional means the department, the work, to evaluate internal control. Okay, what is the only thing you may have to remember or study here? What is very important? Basic assumptions of elements of good control or good internal control. Okay, so we can talk about the same SOD, authorization, documentation, accountability. Yeah, these are all the components, these are all the elements of a good internal control. Okay, other things we need not talk about it because I don't think so, because in the intermediate also they are given the same. The questions have been asked there at the intermediate level. Second is checklist. Series of questions which auditor has to answer. Next one question comes, how it is different from questionnaire. Yeah, because all in between components and all you can have a read. One, ICQ is large number of detailed questions. But this is very small, you can say, because these are small questions. ICQ answered by executives. Then you can write checklist is answered by audit staff. No in ICQ is automatic revelation of weakness. So we can write these three elements. First of all, ICQ is very large. It's not small, but a very detailed questions, but ending with yes or no. It can be answered by the executive, and it will very automatically tell what is the strength or weakness. The third thing, we have got a flow chart. What is the flow chart? A graphical presentation of internal controls giving bird's eye view of system. Even first time, I always used to teach students from the book and all. First time when I prepared, no, I could able to understand the subject much better than what I would have done when I was teaching in the form of a narrative, like explaining line after line. Okay, probably I want to shift completely to this pattern of teaching. Now, what is only one question you need to focus here? One question you need to focus. What does it reveal? What is going to tell? One, what point document is raised? Second, number of copies of the document. Third, very easy to remember. We will focus only on one thing, distribution of copies. First of all, you raise. Second, how many? Distribution of documents. First of all, how many documents you raise? Where you raise? How many documents? Where it gets distributed? Fourth, we will focus only from the documentation point of view. Filing or storing of the documents, where it gets stored. And the fifth one, disposal of documents. Okay, how to remember it is very easy. Document life cycle. You remember something called a document life cycle. Now you write about this in the flowchart. That means where the document will come, how they will split, where all it will go. You see our life, like our life. Somewhere something comes into life, it expands, it grows, and one day it dies. It will stabilize in one place. Filing, it will stay. Because see, do you know at this point of time where you get settled in your life? No. But at one point of time, you have to get settled. You have to stay in one location. Then you get, okay, this is stability for me. And then like this, you can easily remember, I believe, flowchart. You can write all those things. Yeah, but other questions, I don't think so it is relevant here. All the flowchart, charts and all they have given. Okay, what type of risk you can identify. Okay, I don't think so it is really important. Yes, if you study this much, more than sufficient, and there are so many other things to remember also. That's what I, in the first time before starting this chapter only, I told there is a noise. Because for me, no, there is a lot of noise actually. Because spending more time, that too, it feels very irrelevant. The way they have given the chart and the stories they have explained. Okay, the next thing you need to understand. The next thing you need to write, reporting of internal control weakness. Okay, you see students here, how do your journey started? When you speak about the internal control, because risk assessment requires internal control, first you understood what it is its objective and all. Then you understood the structure, traditional structure, COSO structure. Then you understood, you did one review, what this organization has done. Up to here it is theory. This is applicable to every client. Review becomes client specific, but in the review you understand only design plus implementation. You don't talk about the operating effectiveness and try to get a feel over the operating effectiveness. Then you do evaluation. In the evaluation, you are actually doing test of controls because you pick the samples, you study that, you draw the flowchart. I hope you are getting a good idea. Now, in this process, you may see some weakness. See, you will not be able to. You may see some weakness at the high level, but this point of time, no, you actually know what people are doing there. And these are all practical, client specific. This is theory applicable to everybody in the world. Every client it is applicable. It's thought process. So now you have to apply. So SA 265 comes into picture. Now what is your responsibility? Which type of communication you need to make? What need to be sensitized? That's what we are going to see in SA 265. I hope students you are getting a very good flow and you can remember also. Now, communication of the internal control weakness during the course of audit. See, please understand, your work was not to identify the weakness. In the course of audit, you may come across the material weakness because of the controls are missing, like age-wise analysis of the trade receivable is not performed. So, if age-wise analysis is not done, it is going to result into bad debt, cash risk. And this bad debt is going to affect your reserve for bad debts. RBD is an accounting risk, which is going to create a material misstatement in the financial statement. Yes, now it is time, because you are concerned with RBD, but RBD is coming from cash risk. No, so if this is addressed, RBD is automatically addressed. So you have to communicate how? By giving something called a letter of weakness or management letter. Remember this keyword, because in the examination they will give you these words, management letter. Now, don't get confused with that word. See, when they tell you management letter, because they may not tell you proper keywords, they may use the word management letter. You have to understand that they are talking about the letter of weakness and they are talking about the communication of the weakness to the management, and in short, SA 265. Follow? And highly possible, I don't know whether that number has been discussed here or not. Here they have discussed. That's why when they give this examination question, highly possible they may use the word as per relevant standard. Because in all other places, no, you had a proper heading only. This is the standard number, this is the name, this is the objective. But in this case, it has gone ulta. It starts like a general discussion, but actually they are talking about SA 265. So in the examination, they may tell, give the relevant standard name. So you are expected to write that name of the SA 265. Just to get 1 mark. Otherwise you will lose. Are you clear about this letter of weakness? Now, whenever you are drafting the letter of weakness, because you understood, what are the points you need to draw? Like for example, I understood when I have studied you. See, I know I can have one mock test at the end, but if I can suggest you, look, Baba, you are lagging behind, you are not preparing, Because if those mistakes are going to affect me, is it going to affect me? Your internal control weakness, you are not preparing only. Is it going to affect me? Obviously, right? So should I not communicate to you? This is the point. Like, how to communicate now? I have to issue something called a management letter or weakness, internal control weakness memo, or I can call it a memo also, management memo. Now, what are the important points I should keep in mind when drafting such letter? First, I should list down the areas of weakness and offer some suggestions for improvement also. Just don't simply tell. You tell the solution also. Don't come with the problems. Now, second thing I need to tell you, I should clearly indicate that only those weaknesses have come to the attention as a result of audit. Because the moment I started to tell weakness to the management, they started to think that, oh, I must have studied the internal controls in detail. Like, for example, if I have to go back and I will say, sir, in your company, the purchase manager is not asking the question, is the stock available? Now, management says, oh, is it so? But that means what is going, see, is the cash problem, because already stock must be there. And these people are buying again and again, not even thinking whether the stock is already available or not. Is it material? Yes, you went and told the management. Management is very happy. But you went and told from which perspective? Because you are thinking from the stock provision perspective. Management happy because they can save some money. But what impression is going to create? No, they feel that entire flowchart you must have studied. You tell, look, sir, whether you have got a contract or not, that is also another beautiful thing. But I am not concerned whether you have got a contract or not. So don't expect me that I have studied this also and I am going to bring every weakness to your attention. So second thing I need to tell them, I should find out only those weaknesses which is come to me in the form of an audit. Third, this letter serves as a valuable reference document for proposing revising the system and strict implementation. So when I give this flowchart to the management and show, look, sir, these are all the control weakness you have got it. Can't they implement, they better improvise the internal controls? And helps to minimize the legal liability also. Tomorrow, if anything goes wrong, first question, what auditor is doing? Followed, no? You see, any exam, like just to share one small, some results come, okay, some marks are not proper in one of the subjects. First thing, people start doubting, okay, what faculty did? Hey, Baba, faculty is only 50%. There's a 50% element from the students also, no? And that students element comes in the form of a discipline. So tomorrow, if this type of observations have been given, communicated to the TCWG, it will help to minimize the legal liability, telling, look, Baba, I have been always telling, this is the problem, they are not improved. Okay, so these are all the important points you should kept in mind. One, you should list down the weaknesses and offer the suggestions. Indicate that I have come across only during the audit, valuable reference document, and it will help you to minimize legal liability. So it should be appreciated that by writing a letter to the management, auditor is not absolved from the duty or to report the shortcoming by way of qualification, which is not corrected to the auditor's satisfaction. That means, see, Baba, just like communicating to someone is not going to solve your responsibility. If you have got a reporting responsibility tomorrow, like for example, if you have to bring it to the notice of the shareholders, you have to bring it to the notice of the shareholders. If you feel management has not corrected it. Now, the practice of issue of the letter of weakness has a great merit in relieving liability in case of fraud, because auditor can always say that I have pointed out. And in the case of SP Catterson Limited in 1937, auditor was acquitted of the charge of negligence of the employee frauds, in the view that he has already informed the client about the unsatisfactory status and not even acted by the management. Yeah, if the auditor had observed, but he had not communicated, then this could have come to the auditor's head. But in 1937, in this case, auditor was given clean sheet. They said, look, Baba, you have done your job very well. You have given the observation to the management, and management should have taken action against the employee fraud. We cannot hold the auditors responsible. That's why ICAI has issued SA 265, communication of deficiency to TCWG and management. And what is the objective of the auditor? Communicate appropriately TCWG and management deficiencies in the internal control. Which internal control? Sufficient merit to bring their respective actions. Okay, what auditor should do? And now onward, they are talking about the contents of your SA 265. First thing, auditor should determine whether they have identified one or more deficiencies. See, again, this part is discussed at the inter level. Please remember, in inter level, if I have to show you the flow chart, there are so many questions. Like, how do you decide when one deficiency is significant or not? What are the indicators of significant deficiency? I think you must have understood. You must be remembering. In inter, it was very famous question. Examples of significant deficiency, indicators of significant deficiency. Two different things. Examiners always used to play with it. Now, which areas are really significant deficiencies? Like management is not doing risk assessment. You have found out something which management didn't find. These are all significant deficiencies. What are the indicators of significant deficiency? That management is having a poor assessment. Okay, there are some significant transaction happening outside the course of business without authorization. These are all indicators. Anyhow, at the final level, you need not bother about it. If the auditor has identified any deficiencies, he has to check whether they are individually or in combination constitute significant deficiencies. Like for example, student, I can just give an example to you. Like in a room, there is petrol can. Is it significant deficiency? Answer is no. In that room, there is one light switchboard. Is there significant deficiency? No. In that room, there are a lot of furnitures. Is there significant deficiency? No. But if you see here, this petrol can has been placed just below the switchboard. And if the fire happens, the nearby furnitures are going to catch the fire. Now, in a combination, all the three things together is a significant deficiency. This is what auditor has to see. Like somebody has got a cut on the leg. Is it significant deficiency? No. Somebody has got a sugar. Is it a significant deficiency? No. Somebody is eating left and right sweets. Is it significant deficiency? No. But if I combine all the three things together, then it's a significant deficiency. So this is what auditor should do. First thing, have you identified a deficiency? That's the first question. Second, whether they are individually or in combination significant deficiency. This is what you need to decide. And if you identify such deficiencies, you should give in writing on a timely basis. In which writing form? What is that called? Letter of weakness or management letter. So what auditor should do? Auditor should in writing communicate the significant deficiencies unless it would be inappropriate to communicate directly to the management. Other deficiencies he may have to communicate to the management. Here, internal, okay, auditor shall communicate to the management at an appropriate level on a timely basis in writing significant deficiency in internal control that auditor has communicated or intend to communicate to TCWG. So what are all significant deficiencies they have figured out, they have to communicate to the management, and all other deficiencies also may have to be communicated. So these are all the significant deficiencies which is communicated to TCWG. That also has to be communicated. Other deficiency also has to be communicated. Now auditor shall include in the written communication what? One, description of the deficiency along with their potential effect. Why? If you simply tell, it will not touch. But when you monetize and tell this can be the possible loss, now somebody will become very serious. And you need to give sufficient information. Okay, students, so what we can do, we will ignore these 2 points. Important points with regard to say letter of significance, we will ignore this. We will ignore because this is already covered in essay 265. But we will say how it is going to help. These 2 points are important. For 1 or 2 marks, they can ask you how it is going to help, how it is going to assist. We will keep only these 2 points. These points we will ignore because same points have been discussed in essay 265. So when you are giving the letter of weakness, what is that you should keep in mind? First, you need to give the description and its potential effect. Second, you need to give sufficient information. So they should understand the context of audit. 1. Purpose of audit is to express opinion, not to understand the internal controls. First, tell them very clearly. Now, which internal controls we have, why we studied the internal control? Audit includes the consideration of internal controls which is relevant for the preparation of financial controls. And we are not expressing effectiveness of the internal control as a whole. That means in the internal control also we are focused only on financial reporting controls or accounting controls. The matters which are reported are limited to the deficiencies which we have identified. Everything we are not figured out. So this is the communication you may have to have. Okay, so there are two questions we will see. I hope students it's very clear. First thing, you tell that your job is not to study the internal control, express the opinion, and as part of the audit you are required to study the internal control so that you can define your test of controls. And when you have studied the internal controls, not all the study internal controls, you have studied only financial statement related internal controls. And when you have found out the deficiencies, they are not all the deficiencies, only those deficiencies which has come to our knowledge. They are limited to the deficiencies which auditor has identified. There can be still more deficiencies. With this, no, you are free from your liability. This is what you are supposed to do as per the standard. Okay, now let us go to evaluation of the control risk. Okay, I don't know, one question has come from nowhere, friend. Just let us see this. Okay, I don't know where to fit this question. Now, in the test your one understanding, they had it. Now, R is conducting this on minute. Yeah, I think I have fitted it somewhere else. Okay, let us see it later. I think I have put it somewhere. Now, statutory auditor of a listed company, who CAS, he is reviewing the internal controls of the company. So this time, no, they may take you to your head. First of all, reviewing of the internal control, chapter 4, review part. So you think that they must be talking about the design and implementation. He is of the view there can be possible situation where insurance premium for keeping the insurance policies in current in respect of various assets have become due, but internal control system is not able to capture it. Okay, that means you have got so many policies, marine policy, asset policy, so many insurance policies on different assets you have. Now they are becoming due on different dates, and your organization is not keeping track of it. So what can happen? What is the risk? There can be so many assets which is not having any insurance at all and it is exposed now. Now elaborate, how should you proceed to deal with the above situation? Okay, so what they are talking now? They are talking about the deficiencies in the internal control. So how you are going to do now? What you are going to do? So you say that, look, there is a deficiency in the internal control. When a deficiency is coming, like when you are deficient of vitamin, say vitamin A, one, either you don't have any food which has got vitamin A or it is not sufficient. That is what we call deficiency. Deficiency means either you don't have or you have it but it is not sufficient enough. So what do you mean by deficiency in the internal control? That means either control which is necessary to prevent, detect, correct is missing. This is called a design deficiency. Or a control is available but it is failed to prevent, detect, correct. It's called an operating deficiency. That means either control itself is not there or it is not operating effectively. That is called deficiency. Now, is it a significant deficiency? So that is what you need to decide whether it's individually or combination it's significant. Because if it's not significant, you have to communicate this to management. Else you may have to communicate to TCWG. Now you tell me, students, is there a deficiency? Yes, because there is no sufficient internal control to review the overdue insurance. Yes, is a deficiency, but is it significant? Yes. Why? Because there can be so many assets. Tomorrow, if a fire happens, that means you don't have anything now. Your all assets are gone, and you don't have insurance cover. Yes, it is significant deficiency. So what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to communicate to the management. So SC 265 says, if you have got a significant deficiency, not only whether a misstatement has actually occurred, that means you are not that it should have been occurred, likelihood also is also going to cause the potential magnitude. That means if the deficiency is there, like I told you, petrol, fire, it's not that it should have happened. What may happen, that also you should consider as part of the significant deficiency. Yes, and it all depends upon the auditor's judgment. Yes, so here the susceptibility of a loss of an asset is a factor in determining the deficiency. So you need to communicate in writing what description and sufficient information. They didn't tell you what you need to communicate in sufficient detail. You can write that. Okay, I hope you are clear, students, about this particular thing. Yeah, but you can mark it very important because apparently it is not visible what you are supposed to do. So you understood that it is from the chapter 4, but they are not talking very clearly. Are you supposed to communicate? Is it a communication responsibility? They simply said, how would you proceed? Okay, that's why this type of questions you may have to remember, because apparently from the chapter you may not be able to identify. See, in September 24-25, they had asked one question in the exam also, which is your test your knowledge 3 question. During the course of audit, auditor noticed material weakness in the internal control system, wishes to communicate to the same. See, you compare this question with this question. See, here it is very difficult to know whether from which chapter though you may figure out, but which concept is very difficult. But here it's very clear that they are talking about the communication. Elucidate the important points auditor should keep in mind while drafting the letter of weakness. If this so, this is the question. Let us see the examination question also, how it has come in the exam. Then they asked you in MTP one question. While conducting the statutory audit, auditor identified several weaknesses in the internal control. Keyword. Identifying it is the chapter number 4, such as cash handling, inventory management, authorization, etc. These deficiencies indicated potential risk of errors and frauds. Okay, significant. Now, fraud means error significant. And decided to communicate. See, internal control weakness, communication. These 2 things should tell it is chapter number 4, concept number 7. This weakness to the company's management through a letter of weakness. However, he want to ensure that the communication reflect the scope and the limitations of the properly. So elucidate the points you should keep in mind while drafting the letter. So students, you can ignore this from the examination point of view because already they have asked you in the examination. Engagement partner, while conducting the audit, he identified some deficiencies. On the verification of the internal control, he has some indications that significant transactions which the management is financially interested are not apparently scrutinized by the TCWG, and few cases were observed susceptibility for the loss of the asset. He determined that the identified deficiencies constitute significant deficiency. Okay, this is a very keyword, significant deficiency in the internal control, because this is discussed only in SA 265. How and to whom CA should communicate? To tell that TCWG, you should get 1 mark. How? The letter of weakness you should tell. How you should do letter of weakness? CHQ shall communicate the significant deficiencies. Which matter should be included? You see in the examination hall how they distributed the mark. To tell that internal control memo or management letter, that you should write one management letter, you will fetch 1 mark. See the examination question. Whom should tell? TCWG to tell 1 mark. And to the management. Don't tell only TCWG. Both you should communicate in writing. That is very important. Okay, what are the factors you should consider? Now you should say description, sufficient information. Probably 3 marks must have been assigned for this. So I hope students you have now how it is going to help? Have they asked? No. This is, they will have a reference document, minimize the legal liability. So this is how it is going to assist. Have they asked you in the examination question? No. So writing this will not fetch you any mark at all. I hope it's very clear. Yes. So this is all about your communication of deficiency. I think students today evening, so we will be able to finish this. Yes. So I hope notes we will write in the next session. So are you clear? So in the next class, see, done. We are done. Actually, in the framework, we have got only one. See, we have got some other questions actually, like mixed questions. Because I cannot fix this in anywhere inside the chapter. Framework, we don't have any questions on it. So almost we can say from the Q&A point of view, this subsequent concepts, there is no Q&As. Yes, so thank you very much, students.